Welcome everyone to Life Lessons from Movies, presented by my organization, the Zen of Hollywood, and me, your host, David MacKay. In this segment, we extract life lessons from films so that we can learn something, improve our lives, and become happier, which I believe we all desire. Okay, today's theme is how to rise above our survival mentality. And we'll examine this theme through the good film called Alien, starring Sigourney Weaver, Tom Skerritt, and Veronica Cartwright. Please know there are spoilers ahead. 10% of the world's population lives on less than $2 a day. We all know about the statistics. This means, of course, that these people are focused more than anything on surviving. But the truth is, many of us in developed countries, even though we have our basic needs met, are also living with this same kind of survival mentality, this paycheck to paycheck mindset that keeps us in this lower consciousness that prevents us from becoming happy. This survival mentality, in fact, is the very reality behind all of society's ills, including the current pandemic, which has wiped out something like 2.78 million individuals worldwide as of this video. When it comes to the pandemic, it would be easy to blame it on a few nations, a few groups, individuals, health protocols. But the truth of the matter is we're all responsible, at least to some degree, collectively, because we all harbor these fears, this survival mentality that ends up being projected onto the world, leading to physical imbalances on the material plane, which then causes all sorts of problems. The same could be said for the 7 crew members of the spacecraft Nostromo in the film Alien. All of these staff members would probably say that they're just doing their job. But they are all at least partially responsible through their survival mentality of what happens to them, picking up this alien creature that ends up wiping them out, everyone except Ripley. So let's take a closer look at the life lessons being offered in the film Alien to see how we ourselves can rise above our survival mentality and go from surviving to thriving. Here are some tips to do exactly that. Number 1, we need to stop focusing on our lack of money. This is exactly what Brett and Parker do, these 2 characters in the film. They're always complaining about not earning enough money. And it's probably true. Their salaries are probably not high enough. But always focusing on what they don't have only poisons the atmosphere of the spacecraft. And the same is true in our lives. When we focus on our lack of resources, well, we end up getting that becomes reflected in our lives, because as we've already discussed, the external world corresponds to our internal environment. The truth is, we're all rich beyond belief, not necessarily in a financial way, but certainly we have abundance in many different aspects of our lives. I mean, just take a look at everything that we have. Everything from friends to free will to air to breathe, our health, love in our lives, and on and on. And as we focus on our natural abundance, then what shows up in our lives is abundance as well, including financially. Focusing on lack is survival mentality. Instead, we need to rise above that by focusing on our abundance, which is thriving. Number 2, we need to focus on the emotional connection and intimacy with others. We know how disconnected the world can be, and we can see this disconnect among the staff members of the spacecraft Nostromo. Everybody really has this attitude of every man for himself. Yes, they all get along quite well, but really they don't take time to validate each other's emotions, to really care for each other, especially the captain, Dallas. And that leads to disaster. So you see, when we don't connect with people, when we don't focus on intimacy, emotional intimacy, then what we get is separation. And separation is all about fear, and that's exactly what leads to this survival mentality. Because when we're all separated, we start treating each other like enemies, and it leads to this us versus them mentality that we see in the world today that just causes all sorts of problems. Number 3, we need to cultivate and listen to our intuition. In the film, when they go exploring that desolate moon, searching for that distress signal, which ends up being a warning signal, well, Lambert, played by Veronica Cartwright, has this bad feeling. And she says so. She goes, I don't have a good feeling about this, or I have a bad feeling about this. And instead of listening to their intuition, They keep going, and in the end, well, you know what happens. They pick up that alien, and the rest is history. The same goes for Ripley, who has a bad feeling about the science officer, Ash, but instead of listening to her, Dallas ignores her, and again, that leads to catastrophe. We must listen to our intuition if we're going to rise above this survival mentality, because our intuition is our connection to the divine, which is all about love. Again, survival is all about fear, and our intuition, connected to our divine source, is all about really love, because our divine source is continuously guiding us to our highest good. If we'll only get our ego out of the way so that we pay attention, listen to the messages, listen to that inner voice, and follow it. Number 4, we need to focus on love. Now that may seem like an obvious point, but so many of us are so busy with our lives, focused on getting what we want, that we don't really think about others. We take love for granted, or our ego uses love for its own selfish needs. But obviously, if we're going to rise above this fearful survival mentality, we need to embrace love, and that's exactly what Ripley does when she goes back to save her cat, which she had left behind. And this is significant. It's a cat, right? But she loves this cat so much, goes back and saves it. And this is something that we need to remember. I think it's a valuable life lesson to focus on love. And the last thing we need to do is to face our fears. That makes sense. This is an extension of the previous point, because we can't get to the love if we don't move through our fears, because fear is what blocks the love. And this is what Ripley manages to do. She faces her fear by looking that alien in the eye when she's on that space shuttle trying to escape from the alien, but she discovers that the alien is actually on that space shuttle as well. And so she has to look it in the eye so she knows exactly when to press the button and to blast that creature into space, which is what she does. A lot of us avoid our fears, but if we're going to rise above this survival mentality and thrive, we need to face those fears and move through them. In the end, survival is obviously important. We need that survival mentality, otherwise we wouldn't stay alive. But quite often, many of us take that survival mentality too far. We extend it to areas of our life that have nothing to do with surviving, such as our relationships. And so, while survival is important, we need to learn how to really do the aforementioned steps and take them in consideration to integrate them into our lives so that we move from surviving to thriving. So this is what I took as a major life lesson from this film, but I would love to hear from you in the comments below. And for more movies and life lessons, please go to my website, thezenofhollywood.com. That's thezenofhollywood.com. And please like this video and subscribe to my channel. Thanks for watching. See you next time.